I want to do a quick analysis of one of the most stunning and complex chord intros in pop rock music history, and it is one that contains an amazing songwriting secret that I have never heard anyone mention or reveal. I'm talking about Deacon Blues by Steely Dan off 1977's fantastic audiophile classic album Asia. 77 was the year I was born. This was released about a month before I got here. That's pretty cool for me. But Deacon Blues was an unlikely big summer hit in 1978. With a very long for radio length of nearly, I think it's like 7 minutes, and containing this ultra sophisticated jazz chord language. Maybe with all the coke everyone was doing in those days, they relaxed their track length standards or restrictions, for radio stations, and they didn't mind playing jazz chords. Who knows, man? They were just doing coke off the desk and said, sure, let's play it. But anyway, Steely Dan was at the right place and time, because there's probably no other time in history that a band like that would have taken off so much like they did in that era. And I think Walter even said the same thing. Even if you hate Steely Dan with a passion, as I did for many years, well, maybe not a passion, but I really didn't like them, I would suggest you stick around, because this brief lesson will teach you quite a bit about elevating simple chord progressions to something more colorful and grand. Only those that are too biased to let their guard down and learn something from some of the greatest musical minds of advanced chord theory to ever play rock music will be too stubborn to receive the fruits of this lesson. You do not need to like Steely Dan to have your mind blown by this chord sequence I'm going to show you. Look, I am well aware that just because a chord progression is complex, that does not make it good. But it also doesn't automatically make it bad. It's all about how you use it. Taste, good taste. It's one of those things that's really hard to teach, honestly. You kind of either have it or don't. But I really like focusing on a song's aesthetic quality just as much as any of the technicality or the chords or whatever. But there is a certain anti-intellectualism that's prevalent in music today, where it's not really cool to know too much theory or whatever, because, a lot of the music that does use a lot of theory and technicality, it misses a lot on that taste factor that I was just talking about. But I am a believer that knowing more stuff is not necessarily a bad thing, but you have to be real careful about the way you use it. So you could really go so far down a rabbit hole into your technicality that you forget the bigger picture that you're trying to make. There is a prevalent idea out there that people with advanced knowledge of chords, theory, and technical skill automatically make boring music. And sometimes that's true. Jacob Collier's been accused of that by many, despite his unearthly level of knowledge of music theory, production, and the harmonic series, and what a great musician he is. A lot of prog rock has been guilty of that as well, of just being super technically amazing, but for some reason just falling flat on the aesthetic meter. Brian Wilson, however, would be a great example of someone who did employ really advanced harmony in his music, although I think it was more intuitive for him than intellectual. Okay, let's get right into this earth-shattering, life-changing chord progression that is the intro to Deacon Blues. Steely Dan, take my word for it, these guys are next-level songwriters. Even if you still think they're lame, I used to think that too, they got me. They were so much over my head that it took me literally years to figure it out. But these guys are next-level songwriters, especially as related to incorporating advanced jazz progressions into apparent pop music. It's kind of like a Trojan horse. The unbelievable performances of the world-renowned studio musicians they use are out of sight. And their cryptic and twisted lyrics and subject matter, which is not at all obvious in their music, is pretty dark, honestly. Their subjects, I'm not sure there's anything that goes into such dark places, but it's not real obvious. The way they use it is very tasteful and cryptic. Even if you despise their music, as I said I once did, this lesson will yield a lot to you, if you let it. So here's the chords and intro here. We have C major 7, G add 2 over B. So if this is G major, a 2 is actually the same as 9, but that means you want it played in the lower octave. So add 2 over B. So the 3 is in the bass. So there's that 2, there's a 5, and there's 1. That's all the notes of G add 2. And that is also that classic Steely Dan, what they call the moo chord, which can take a bunch of different incarnations. But one of its most colorful incarnations is when you put the 3 in the bass and then do a stack of fourths here, like a McCoy Tyner jazz voicing. Steely Dan loved to use fourths, and jazz loved to use fourths because it basically contradicts the fifths of the harmonic series. So it's kind of cool for some reason that you just hit fourths. So anyway, we have C major 7, G add 2 over B, which is one version of that major mu chord they called, but I like calling it this, G add 2 over B, because it tells you exactly what it is. It's a stack of fourths with the major third here. 9, 5, 1 of G, and then there's that 3. So once again, C major 7, G add 2 over B, then we have B flat major 9, which is like a B flat major, but with a major 7, and a 9, and a 3, and a 5. And then it does that same progression, that mu chord, F add 2 over A. Stack of fourths with A in the bass. It's such a cool open chord. I mean, I've played music for 30-some years, 35 years. Before I studied Steely Dan, I never knew this chord existed, honestly, this stack of fourths, and it sounds so freaking cool. So back to the top, C major 7, G add 2 over B, B flat major 9. It's almost like a modulation in a way. I'm not going to call it that, so we can call that 1 of C, 5 of C, flat 7 of C, and 4 of C. But now it does modulate. Look, it goes up to D major 7 and does that same sequence in D. And this one, you could leave it in D like I did up here, or it kind of goes back to C also before the rest of the intro. Hard to classify. Sometimes there's not a direct fit for key changes, and you just have to kind of, come up with your best way to intellectualize it. So now it goes up a whole step from where it started to the key of D. Does the same thing. I really want you to appreciate that mu chord. So the way you find that chord is you take any major chord and you play a stack of fourths from its 2. So the 2 of this is A, so stack of fourths. And then you put the third in the bass. So in the case of G, the third's B. B flat major 9. It goes up a whole step. Same thing. Then finally it goes to a bar of 3/4 with an E flat major 7. Adds a 6 too. You can even add a 9, something like that. E flat major for a bar of 3. And Steely Dan is so great at incorporating that Hendrix chord. The dominant 7 sharp 9. So one more time on that whole thing, we have got in the key of C. Go up a whole step and do the same thing. Then that E flat, 6 and a 7. It's a great way to add some colors to get a 6 and a major 7 in there, and even a 9. Then that E7 sharp 9. And I'm not going to get into the verse too much, but G's so cool. G13, F13, G over A, F13. All right, so what is that great secret I was talking about? I'm going to reveal it. This isn't just a teaser. I'm going to show it. So this is real colorful, right? Most of you, just admit it, you didn't even know some of those chords, perhaps. And if you did, you probably played jazz. But most pop and rock musicians, if I said play G add 2 over B, wouldn't know what I was talking about. So anyway, to figure out what's actually going on here, we're going to have to break it down to the simplest form of these chords. So that would be C major to G major to B flat major. Listen to that. You know what that is? Here's the secret. That's all it is that 80s progression they used all the time. Name it Rio and she that is on the sand. Just like the river flowing through the dusty land. I cannot believe that that's what that Deacon Blues intro really is. It's just freaking Rio to like the most colorful degree. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Please look to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. That's all it is. That's the secret. You may have heard this song all your life, and I would be willing to bet that most of you, if not all of you, had no idea that that was just Rio. I mean, it would be hard to sing over because the chords go twice as fast. Her name is up a hole. That's pretty cool, actually. I don't know. Maybe you're not that blown away by that, but when you put something sophisticated on it, it kind of hides what's really going on under the hood, and I think that's what happened here. And I don't like this because it's complex and technical. I'm like it because it sounds good. The band is good. The electric piano is good. The guitar player, Larry Carl, it's amazing. It's a really, really good track. The engineering is fantastic. But more than that, the song is just great, and this intro is just iconic. Anyway, that's my short little lesson. I'm going to do the whole song of Deacon Blues, but like I said, it's 7 minutes and complex, and it is not an easy analysis at all. So I can't wait to get into that one. But for now, why don't you learn this intro of Deacon Blues and find out why it is so amazing. And one more thing I will add, I'm just noticing it here, is it finds a way. So like I said, it goes 1, 5, 7, 4 in C. And then it goes up a whole step and goes 1, 5, and it would be 7, 4 in C, but since we're going back to C, I called it 1, 5 again, and it's kind of still flirting with that D, whatever. Then it creeps up to, there's no way to really classify it. He's just trying to find a way up to the E7. So it just does a flat 3, a half step below it. And you would think that might resolve to A minor, because we're in the key of C, right? So that's a 3 dominant. So after that E flat, and usually that would resolve to A minor, but that E7 sharp 9, it's going to go up to that 5 of C, G13. I love when things do not resolve up a fourth like you're expecting them to. I mean, so much resolves up a fourth. And sometimes if you don't, your music can sound random. So it's finding ways to intelligently not resolve up fourths is pretty cool. Doesn't resolve up a fourth, instead goes to this. It sounds like it fits, though. It doesn't sound like you modulate it or it's some big stretch. It just goes to that 5 of C. Thanks a lot for watching this video and taking an interest in my channel. Please help me reach a larger audience by hitting subscribe below and ringing the notification bell. Check out my video playlist page to find the categories that most interest you. Leave me a super thanks here on YouTube, and even better, come join my Patreon. Please consider buying music for my original projects I.S.S. and High Castle Teleorchestra. Also, don't forget to sign up for my email list on the front page of timsmolens.com. You can find information about all of those things in the description below. Thanks again.